During the course of history, many once deadly diseases were overcome by the advancement of medical technology. Once known as the Black Death, the bubonic plague is one of them. However, while the plague can be successfully treated with proper antibiotics, it is not yet vaccinable. While the plague is much more present in Africa, in case of 2015, there were 16 total cases of plagues in the United States. As I was not aware of its continued existence without vaccine yet, until a few days ago, I would like to share this moment to talk about bubonic plague, to raise awareness about it. Even if the reported cases of it is very low, that does not mean we will never be infected. Today, I will talk about its history, symptoms, and its treatment. Before talking about technical information, I would like to talk about its mostly well-known history of the plague. There are three recorded bubonic plague pandemics during the course of history. Unlike how many remembers, the Black Death was not the first pandemic of bubonic plague. The first recorded pandemic is the Justinian plague, named after Justinian I, the Roman emperor of the Byzantine Empire. While the king himself survived the plague, with extensive treatment, being the emperor, the plague wiped over a third of the population of Constantinople, with around 5,000 deaths per day. The second pandemic is the Black Death, which was originated in China. Constantinople was once again involved, as a plague was spread via the trade route in Constantinople to Europe. Just like the last pandemic, the damage was significant, as it wiped out about 60% of European population, which was almost 24 million. The third pandemic also started in China, in the province of Yunnan. It eventually made its way to Australia, where almost 600 people died from 1900 to 1925. While the number is significantly lower, there are over 1,300 reported cases of the plague. Now that we went over the brief history of the plague, I will now talk about its symptoms. The bubonic plague is caused by the bacteria called Yersinia pestis, which was discovered in Hong Kong in 1894, named after Alexandre Yersin. The main method of spread is by rat flea, which brown rats usually host. Its symptoms include sudden fever, headache, chills, and seizure. However, the most known symptom of bubonic plague is buboes, a painful lymph node created near where the infected flea has bitten, usually near the groin, as the name bubonic suggests, since bubos means groin in Latin. While bubonic plague has lower death rate than the other plagues, namely pneumonic or septicemic plague, but if not treated within 24 hours, the death rate is still about 50%, which is still very high. Because of its high death rate, immediate treatment is required. Bubonic plague is treated with antibiotics such as streptomycin, gentamicin, or doxycycline. Aside from the antibiotics, constant supply of respiratory support and lab testing is required, as the testing is what makes sure that the disease is indeed the bubonic plague and can be treated with proper antibiotics. While the plague cannot be vaccinated yet, it still can be prevented. The main measure is a proper rat control, since the diseases come from the rat fleas. It is also important to stay isolated from the patient, as the plague is a bacterial disease, which means it can be contacted from the patient. Basically, keeping our places clean to prevent rats will prevent the disease as well. Today, I talked to you about the bubonic plague, its history, symptoms, and the treatment. It is true that once feared Black Death is no more visible threat these days. However, as death strikes silently and swiftly, you must be aware and be careful of even the minor threats and danger that this plague can cause.